Hello, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management, and welcome to our Women in Wealth series. Today, we're going to talk about women, divorce, and money. So we're going to give you some tips to consider and even share as you or someone you know is going through a divorce. Now, I realize it isn't the happiest of topics, or maybe sometimes you're like relieved to be there, but we'll get through it. Did you know that the highest rate of divorce is actually among the baby boomer generation? Now, back in 1990, less than 1 in 10 people who divorced were over age 50. Today, that number is 1 in 4. And I got that from an article entitled Older Americans, Breakups Are Causing a Graying Divorce Trend by NPR.org. Now, we do call this section of divorce gray divorce. So the article actually captured that. Now, we're also going to dive into the top 10 tips for managing your money during and after your divorce. So let's talk about what you should know to protect yourself and your future. First and foremost, divorce is expensive, so you want to minimize your mistakes, of course. Let's begin with tip number 10. Know and understand the financial impact of a divorce. If you find yourself going through a divorce, it will be important to know and understand the financial impact that it will make on your lifestyle. You'll want to establish a budget accordingly. Now, tip number 9, you want to watch and protect your credit rating. You do receive a free copy of your credit report, so be sure to cancel any joint accounts and remove authorized users other than yourself on those accounts. You're also going to want to address any unsecured debts from like credit cards or commercial loans, things like that. And you can look at divorce360.com for some more information on that. Just remember that not all assets are created equally, and you should not assume that a 50-50 split is actually that. It's important to know about the long term and not just the short term when it comes to receiving assets. Next, we have tip number 8. Don't trade retirement assets for ownership of your home. What we've seen is that many women don't think about retirement savings when they're going through a divorce, and many elect to forego a pension or retirement savings in exchange for 100% ownership of the house. This could be a big mistake. You'll want to consider the cost of the mortgage payments on your single salary, the cost of the upkeep, and the possible devaluation of your house if the market goes sour. Now, right now, we're in a really high housing market, but that doesn't mean we're going to stay here forever. Also, retirement assets, which may increase over time, may actually be worth more in the long term than the house. Tip number 7, Social Security can offer benefits for the ex-spouse. If you have been married for 10 years or more, you may be entitled to receive half of your ex-spouse's Social Security benefits at retirement. Now, that's assuming your benefit is less than 50% of his. The amount of Social Security that your ex-spouse receives will not be affected by you claiming spousal support or spousal Social Security. Now, this could help you wait until a later, more advantaged date to file for your own Social Security benefits, but it always does come down to taxes, doesn't it? And that takes us to tip number 6. Be sure to check past year's tax returns. There is a lot of information on a tax return, and it's especially true if you haven't played much of a role in preparing or filing the tax returns. These documents are a great record of wages, income, and expenses over the years. You may actually even find some surprises in there. Tip number 5, be aware of your taxable investments. Make sure you know and understand the tax implications of your various investments. While a 50-50 split of assets seems like an equitable decision, you need to make sure that you aren't being saddled with all of the taxable investments. It may also make sense to have an accountant or your advisor compare the proposed asset splits after tax values. Now, over the years, you've probably named a beneficiary for your financial and insurance accounts many, many times. Is your beneficiary your ex or soon to be ex? If so, you may want to address that as well. Tip number 4, you're going to want to make sure that you review and, if necessary, change beneficiaries listed on your retirement accounts and insurance policies. It is really important to note that your designated beneficiary trumps anything documented in your will. So review any powers of attorneys or trustees and make sure that they're still the people you want to be responsible for those decisions. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that I find when people go through a divorce and then come to me years later sometimes, or maybe it's just a year, but they forget about changing their beneficiaries. And I can tell you, if you have gone through a divorce process, the last person you probably want being your beneficiary is the ex. So definitely pay attention to that. Tip number 3, make sure that you review your life insurance needs and coverage. The owner of a life insurance policy has all of the rights over that policy, and your divorce proceedings should address any policy ownerships that you currently have. You also want to make sure that you have enough insurance to cover you if your ex-spouse dies prematurely or is disabled. You could have alimony or child support, and if that ex-spouse dies and you don't have life insurance in place, it goes away, like poof, it's gone, just like the ex-spouse. But that could really hurt you if you're relying on that. So with a divorce, you have a new future to plan for. So we have tip number 2, create a plan based on your income and your assets. Now, you want to create a plan for your monthly expenses, including living expenses. It should include housing, car, other items that, were previously shared costs that now are going to be your costs. Remember, you're moving from a 2-person to a 1-person household, kids aside. So that even things like cell phone plans now need to be separated from a family plan to an individual plan. Also, you may have had things like Amazon Prime membership that was a family membership. Now that's going to change, things like that. You're going to have a lot of little minutia type details that you have to deal with. Now, these are, in fact, quite a few things to take into account, and this is going to lead me into the number 1 tip for managing your money during and after a divorce. Tip number 1, you do not have to do it all on your own. In fact, you may do yourself a disservice by trying to do so. The right advisors, including attorneys, financial planners, accountants, mediators, they can all help you avoid costly mistakes. You really get one shot at negotiating your settlement, and you want to make sure that you're going to go in with as much information as possible. Remember, once you sign that divorce agreement, that is final. There's no going back. There's no negotiating. It's final, unless there's fraud, which is really a hard burden to prove. So consult with a financial advisor who specializes in divorce before you go through the divorce to help you understand the breadth of financial considerations and choices you have to account for and make. After you're divorced, you can work with your advisor to make sure that settlement works for you and your retirement needs. As much as we want them to, divorces don't come in a one-size-fits-all package. So let's talk about how I can help you make your decisions and help you understand your financial options before, during, and after your divorce. Thank you for joining me. Again, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management. And you can find me at forgewealth.com, on social media, Facebook and Twitter at Forge Wealth, and on LinkedIn, Regina McCann-Hess. Have a great day.